It's Rich Mclean, and this isn't fair. It's not fair that I spent 3 years doing my own child sexual abuse case with a lawyer and no outcome was given. It's not fair that the magistrate was framed and conspired against me and said I was doomed to fail. It's not cricket that that doomed to fail was then backed up was because Mr. Ball of Ball and Partners framed me internally to government agencies. It's not fair that the FOI from police had a whole lot of crimes I've got nothing to do with. It's not right that I failed a VOCAT case, victims of crime case, when I saved someone from being heinously thrashed and beaten up, maybe killed, and they pinned it on me as a principal aggressor. I'm a peaceful person. I would not punch my way out of a wet paper bag. It's not fair that I had a valid malpractice case against a GP and I was set up to fail again and again by his lawyer, Mr. Ball of Ball and Partners. He informs government policy and sits on the Australian legal bar. I am now bereft of any legal help whatsoever. In fact, I've never had a lawyer, and as soon as my name comes up or my number, I'm catastrophically framed and scapegoated, and I don't get help. It's not right that I worked for 2 long years for the NDIS with a contract and had advance payments, and I've got a government ID at the Department of Social Security as an employee, but it's been 2 years and I still haven't been paid a cent from work cover for my psychological injury and the injury associated with the rational paranoia of realising I'd been framed. It's not right that WorkSafe referred me to Comcare, and Paul Fowler was the head at Comcare. It took another year and a half. Paul Fowler rejected me. He was the old head at WorkSafe, and that's called corruption. The case is now before the AAT. It's a TPD case probably, and I still haven't seen a cent. It's not sufficient to delay, defer, deny a work cover payment beyond what's legally necessary to do. It's now before the AAT, and as a person with a disability, the Charter of Human Rights says I must be equal between the law and have access to the law. It is not sufficient for any government public official acknowledging my issues without me having a lawyer. The AAT member Pennell is now delaying, denying, deferring my payment in a methodology in which to create my vagrancy, which has happened for a period of 2 years, and I've lived as a vagrant ever since the systemic government oppression which I am under actually was the fertile grounds for a suicide attempt. The suicide attempt was inside a public hospital, Wary Mercy, and it was deemed a fatal attempt at a lethal injury. I was dead from systemic government oppression. That same oppression is still occurring over 2 years after I was unceremoniously dumped into the community, no car, no job, no food, squatting, and with a mental illness, a brain detriment, and also the centre of a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, and bereft of any real hope. This methodology is to aid and abet my death because I've overdosed once and I've suicided another time. I don't kill myself for fun. This has been an abhorrent systemic oppression, and it is underpinned by very powerful key political stakeholders. It is not right that my former partner, Steve Isonides, who used to work for Apple and then ASIO, leave me homeless after exploiting me for my nest egg and using me and then dumping me, and then that a legal, fair and equitable settlement was never reached. It's unfathomably true that he was making $30,000 a month at least, and I was on about $350 a week. Now, this abhorrent inequity in imbalance is really unfair in that Centrelink and the Tax Department and the Office of the Prime Minister and Cabinet and AFSA and ASIC, they all toe the party line on not acknowledging that that relationship even existed. Henceforth, every day that I go without food and furthering my vagrancy is a little tip to the hat to Steve Isonides, who is a snide, calculating coward, and he acts via proxy with great political power, and he exploits me for being apparently mentally ill, when in actual fact what has happened is I tried to contact his lawyer to get an atonement for the relationship detriment. That further oppression and attacks via proxy in which to incarcerate me and victimise me, whether I'm ill or not, is really an abhorrent and cowardly thing to do. He is still out there. I'm very quite vocal. He's nowhere to be seen. Steve Isonides, he's at the CSIRO now. He is aiding and abetting my vagrancy, and everyone who knew Steve and I have been exploited by the idea of must be something taboo, because all my friends have left. Everyone has turned against me. Everyone has disappeared. I've been framed, and I'm a catastrophically character assassinated and scapegoated person. The person I am is a holistic and big-hearted person, and I wrote a book on my experience with so-called schizophrenia in the early 2000s, and for that I've been absolutely, utterly taken advantage of, exploited, and cancel cultured or whatever. I've been framed as a sex predator and a rapist for consensual sex, and further, there are actual speakers in my room, and they say that they accuse me of being a rapist and all this kind of stuff. Now, at the moment, I'm under police investigation, and I have men in black SUVs out front of my house. My home is intercepted. My finances are desecrated. My health is suffering, and I live as a vagrant, and an infamous vagrant at that. I cannot report crime to police, whether it be about insurance, whether it be about actual theft of stuff, whether it be about a systemic, universal conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, which has its key in an ASIO employee and a very powerful lawyer who informs government policy. Now, this systemic oppression has robbed me. If I lost if someone stole $50 from me, the police would investigate it. I've been robbed of multi-millions of dollars, and they refuse to do a thing about it. It's not right that the powers that be also toe the party line, and that I've had to reverse engineer this oppression right up to the top. I started at the police, and I went from APRA to NHP OPC to IBAC to the Victorian Inspectorate to the Ombudsman. I was set up to fail the whole way. I struggled with my acknowledgement of my injustices, and further because I was stoic about getting a solution to them, and I always offered the other party an atonement or an opportunity to apologise or an opportunity to settle it, that I've been categorically set up to fail and character assassinated. Now, I'm also a failed whistleblower at ASIC, at APRA, at the Commonwealth Ombudsman, and further, I have really nowhere else to go. I spoke to the last Attorney General, Mclean, because I lost $1 million case at the Australian Human Rights Centre, and they free kicked it to the opposition. That's a bit funny. So that's not very impartial of them. I have evidence of that, and I've been set up to fail at AFCA with Tim Goss, and I lost $1 to $2 million in overdue determinations for various issues. I've been framed by the banks, and because all of this was happening and my work cover case was forwarded to the AAT, which is also under the Attorney General's portfolio, I asked Michaeli Cash to intervene. I knew that I'd lost at Comcare, Australian Human Rights Centre, AFCA, and that under her portfolio was the AAT. I realised and acknowledged that I could never get a lawyer or support or anyone indeed to help me with my justice issues. And I asked her to intervene urgently. It's a political gesture to stop corruption because I've been set up to fail and my case will fail at AAT. To that, she replied, it is not her remit to intervene in legal affairs. That's absolutely incorrect. It is absolutely the Attorney General's responsibility to advocate for people who have been conspired against and call that corruption. It is absolutely the responsibility of any minister or anyone in public office to not act outside the remit of the Charter of Human Rights for people with a disability, ratified by the government in 2008, which says we must not be exploited. We must not be taken advantage of. We must not. We have to have equal access to the law. We have to have equality before the law. It's forbidden to have the dignity of life robbed of you. And it is, of course, another issue on the Charter of Human Rights that torture is off the cards. Me, as a person, Dr. Richard Mclean, after literally being systemically oppressed that much by the government and powerful underpinnings and political key stakeholders, I was literally murdered. I was crucified. I died. And then I was dumped, and then it was covered up, and now the government have a lawyer to sue me for recording stuff, which is legal in Victoria, and now have a lawyer at the AAT in Kate Watson, hi Kate, who absolutely knows this is fantastically cooked, and I'm going to fail my work cover case, or they are going to delay, defer, and deny it for so long that it causes harm to me. That is what is happening. For the prejudices of what I've been framed with, for whatever what I want to say, or the libel and slander, the word on the street, the gossip between you and me of what they are going to hold that to me as an exploitative thing in order to aid and abet my death and render me a vagrant. And it's happened. I'm a vagrant. I have no... this is a shell of a house I've been squatting in. I can't afford it. I'm on a disability pension. And I'm owed millions of dollars. This is an abhorrent miscarriage of justice. So let's just call it for what it is. It's a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. It's systemic. It's across government departments. And it is played out by faceless public officials, mostly, who act with incredible audacity in their privilege just to flick me off. One stick in many thousands of sticks that is the faggot that's fucking killed me and still oppressing me. I have no rights. I barely have a voice. I've lost my people. I've been framed. I've been exploited. I've been persecuted that much. I died, and then I was revived from certain death, only to be sued by the government, and then the government have a lawyer to protect the government. You couldn't make it up. I'm aghast with the amount of torture and abuse that these systemic organisations and powerful people have put me through. It is true that as a person in this society, if you have money, you've got power. I have basically nothing. I only have my sentience, and you know what? You can't take that. You can't, and unless I kill myself. But you can't take that. It's not right that I can't get a lawyer. It's not right that I can't go to police. It's not right that I can't be a whistleblower with the incredible amount of corruption and crime that has identified, vilified, and victimised me as a public person and a person in the public service so demonically. It's so not right that I can't be a whistleblower. And the apex of it, which I've had to reverse engineer over many years, was that the Office of Prime Minister in Cabinet refused my freedom of information. That's an absolute gaslighting head FCCK. I'm beside myself in disbelief, but they absolutely know, and they've intelligently designed it, that I have been framed this way, and I am isolated in the world. I have no power because I have no money. But you know what? I'm a courageous person, and I have acted courageously and bravely and honestly for many, many years. And I'm proud of who I am, and I deserve better. And the people who reject me and continually oppress me, oh, hello, who was it today? Williamstown, Footscray, Kate, someone. They are acting with a conceited amount of privilege to take advantage of me because I have no other recourse. I can't go to legal aid. I can't go to Justice Connect. I literally have written out a huge statement of injustice that I've taken to police, and they threatened to call the mental health team because when you're a vagrant and when you have no power, they drive you mad, and they will dress up your vagrancy and your frustration with being ill, and then they reincarnate you. And you know what? The next time I was recarcerated in a psychiatric hospital, thanks to Steve Isonides, former ASIO employee and the CSIRO, because I went after his superannuation and the $1 million he sold in a home that he sold while we were together, and we were engaged for 5 years. He was archetypal in orchestrating me to get incarcerated. And further to that, when I was incarcerated, I ended up in a locked unit with a bloody psychopath. There was a person sent for me to be beaten by. He was going to violently assault me, and he did. I had a broken nose. I had to defend myself. That person had a t-shirt with my tattoo on the front of it. It's almost like an audacious way to say, we know you're in here, and this is the powers that we got, that we can fuck you up. And you know what? He went to attack me, and all the guards and the security stayed back, and he violently assaulted me. Now, if you out there listening went to see a dentist, and which is another health profession, and you were in the dentist chair, all of a sudden, someone comes out of the second room, punches you in the head, and breaks your nose, and literally nothing's done about it. The dentist doesn't do anything. The guards, the police, everyone just goes, well, it's all right that he was punched in the head. After all, he's mentally ill. And you know what the slander is around that is that I could further be oppressed, and no one will do anything about it. And that's the power of very base, rudimentary emotions of libel and slander, when it's the easiest way to isolate and reject and damn someone to hell, and not take responsibility for actually acting to help that person. As in me. I can't make her a police report. Does anyone want to make a police report for me? Can anyone help me get my work cover case? It's been 2 years, and there is a legal case by which they have to do it. Can anyone help? Can anyone help hold to account any public official who's within the remit of the Charter of Human Rights? Can anyone get me a lawyer? Can anyone get me a simple atonement of a very factual statement that says I'm owed detriment from an old claim? Can anyone help me at HCF? Can anyone help me? Oh, well, I can't. The ship sailed. The damage has been done. I can't go to Africa. I've lost all that. That's called detriment. And you know what else is detriment? Is my human suffering. Because one at a time, the world has forsaken me, either psychosocially, politically, or because of the libel and slander, or being framed, of my former public life. Now, I've, like I said, I think that's a brave pro-feminist approach to using a narrative to actually educate and inform about regret, about sex, about consent. It was actually on the front foot. I knew what I was doing, and that it was absolutely a courageous and honest story. I'm literally on her side, but the way I've been framed years later, because I went for quite a few years without anything happening to me, but then as soon as I started to stick up for myself, suddenly all these demons come out of the closet, and they're in my room. I've been exploited. They've accessed my phone. They've accessed my computer. There's people giving me death threats at the front door, which I can't do anything about. I can't even begin to describe the systemic corruption and the amount of interpersonal trauma and oppression that I've received universally from basically humankind. I've been used, exploited, and I've been categorically character assassinated. Can anyone lend me $50? I mean, I spoke to Kate Hall today from Footscray, the MP, and she says, "Oh, we can help you with some housing solutions." I mean, is it welfare that I need, or is it justice that I need? Is it a little bit of column A? Is it a little bit of column B? Am I mad, or do I have delusions? Am I too clever, and they should cut me down, or am I not clever enough? There's a whole lot of contradictions happening in this story, and it's really making me suffer, and I'm hurting. And forward to that, there are people I've hurt in the past. We all do. It's a human trait, and it's part of our condition. But when you're put it out in the public domain in such a brave way, and it's used against you to frame and exist there forever, there's no recourse for repopulating that story with anything else other than utter damnation. And I can't win. I can't win. This whole movement to oppress, vilify, identify, and victimize me has been profound. It's been it's encapsulated and saturated every element of my life. I just want a simple life. That's all. I don't want to be a public person. I could care less. I just want to have enough to eat. I want to have some dignity, and I want to have some human worth. I miss my friends and my family, but they've all forsaken me. I love people, and I've always loved people, but this is the sad reality of the utter isolation of my life, and I'm suffering, and I am I've been victimized, and I'm literally being tortured, and the world is watching. Can anyone help me?